Hi guys, I just wanted to wish you all a happy Saturday, happy Sabbath day. I pray you're all having a really super blessed day, and with whatever it is you may be doing today. I do apologise, by the way, that I haven't done a video for I don't know how long. It's been quite a while, hasn't it? So I do apologise about that. And I know I promised and I said that I was going to do another video of my Hell and Heaven testimony, and I haven't got around to doing it yet. There's been a few things that's happened as why I haven't done any videos yet. Like I had another stay in hospital. I think the last video I did, I mentioned that I wasn't feeling very well and I went in hospital with a bad chest infection. Well, literally straight after I'd done that video, I ended up in hospital again within like a days of doing it, and turned out that I had pneumonia. So I was really unwell, and I was in hospital for about 5 days in total. So yeah, I do apologize. That was obviously about 6 weeks ago now, and like I've just been concentrating on obviously like getting better, and obviously now it's like summer's here and it has been absolutely boiling hot here in Great Britain. We've had like a big heat wave. It was like 30 centigrades like every single day for like about 3 weeks. And then the last few days it's like settled down a little bit. It's got a bit cooler. It's really hot again today. It's shot back up again to the really high 20s. Like I think it's like 28 centigrades today, or 27 maybe. Not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's in like but around about 87, 88 Fahrenheit. Obviously, when it was like in the 30s, it even got above 30 at one stage. It was like 37 centigrade. It was just ridiculous. It was absolutely melting hot. I mean, so many of you watch my video that live in other countries that get a lot hotter. I know it gets a lot hotter, but here in England, our houses do not have air conditioning in. All we have, as you can see, is that fan that's like directly behind me right now, which one, it is like super hot. All right, you have all the windows open, you have the fan on, but the fan doesn't do nothing. It's like it just wafts the hot air around the room and you're just baking. And so it was really uncomfortable. So I was like really glad when the temperature dropped. The last couple of days has been really like, it's been like more sort of like 24 centigrades, 25, and it's been a lot cooler to what it has been. So I was really grateful for that, because at night it was a lot more comfortable to sleep at night. When it's like so hot at night, it's just unbearable because you literally just can't get away from it. You can't get cool. No matter what you do, you just can't get cool, and it's just horrendous. That's why I always say that me myself personally, I prefer the autumn, or the fall as you want to call it, because it's when the leaves are all really beautiful colours, the reds and the orange and the yellows, and the leaves are falling, and I just find it really beautiful. And the temperature's all right, it's a little colder and you've got to wear like a jacket or a coat, but I just feel like, well, at least then, if you're cold, you can just put extra layers on. But when it's really super hot, there's like nothing you can do. You can't literally take your skin off. You just got to try and keep yourself cool the best way you can. Anyway, I don't want to go on too much about that. I want to just go on to this video. If it does cut out, and it cuts out in a weird way, I do apologise. I will do a number two, like a video number two, part two. That's what I'm trying to think of. It wouldn't come to me. But let's just see how far we can get without that. Hopefully I'll be able to do the whole lot without having to do a part two. So for those of you that have seen my Hell and Heaven testimony video before, you can watch this again, or you don't have to watch this again, but I'm just gonna try and go into more detail about what happened, because obviously when I did that very first video, it was my first video, I was so nervous, my voice was all like shaky. I was doing all this hair thing and that, the touching, it was a nervous thing, nerves were like really on high alert. I was just so nervous. So you know, and also, like, when you first start doing videos on YouTube, they give you 15 minutes, and it was just not enough time to like get everything in. And now I get longer to do my videos. I need to know, I'm not sure how long my phone will let me do a video for, because normally it cuts out because of storage. I mean, yeah, I should really get rid of photos and stuff like that, but a lot of them like to keep. But But anyway, so this, people, is my hell and heaven testimony. Um, Told again. Obviously, it's going to be very similar to what I said before, because I can't change a story. I can't change what happened. I can only tell you what happened, how it happened, in the way I can remember. But I add the parts that I didn't add. Like, there was extra parts that I didn't add before because I didn't have time. It's not much re-adding. So I'm sorry if I disappoint any of you with this, because you're gonna be thinking, oh, she's gonna go into great detail and talk about like things in great detail. I just can only say what happened and tell the truth and just tell you what happened. I can't, change it, because this is how it happened. So, as you all know, or if you don't know me, in 2008, I actually got incredibly sick, and I ended up in a hospital, and I had a liver failure. It was known as acute liver failure, which means like sudden liver failure. So basically, I was put into a coma, what they call an induced coma. And I've always believed in like God, and I've always been like a believer, but I was never a Christian. But I believed because I had been brought up to be a believer by with my grandmother, with her being a Christian, and she used to like talk about the Bible and read me stories from the Bible, and she used to talk about Jesus a lot. And like when I was at school when I was younger, especially like when I was like 4 in like nursery and upwards from there, in like the first few years at school, you used to do the nativity plays at Christmas, and you used to learn all about Jesus and Mary and Joseph and all that kind of stuff. So I've always been known, sort of thing. But then obviously we go for a stage when we're teenagers where we're quite rebellious, and I was really rebellious. As I've talked about in my other videos, I got to a stage in my life where I just like didn't care if I lived or if I died. I was just like, well, I don't care what happened, and I'm just going to live my life how I want to live it. So I was doing all sorts of things. So anyway, I was in a coma, I was in hospital. Basically, I didn't add this in my last video, but I did actually die. My heart stopped, and I don't know what they call it, but those things that they use if somebody flatlines, and they use those electronic pad things that they put on somebody's chest, and they kind of like shock them to get their heartbeat beating again. Well, I had all that done to me. And I'm just going to tell you from my point of view what happened and where I went, because I went somewhere that was so unpleasant, that was so dark, that was so frightening, that I don't want ever any other person, especially people who I care about, my brothers and sisters in Christ, my friends, my family, I don't want anyone going there, because it was horrible. But basically I found myself, there's different stages, but the first stage I found myself was in this massive pitch black like space. It was pitch black, you couldn't really see in front of you very much. It was like the black enveloped you, it was just all around you. And it was like I was walking around, and I could feel myself walking, and I was looking around, and you could see other people in the darkness, just them, like nothing around them or anything, just them walking around. And obviously I was really frightened because I didn't know where I was, and I was just like, where am I? What's happening? What's going on? So obviously to these people that were like walking around, I was asking them, where am I? But they just did not reply. They just like kept on walking right past me, didn't look, didn't acknowledge me. They just looked totally and utterly lost, like I was lost. So I carried on walking, and again, like many people walked past me, but they just did not acknowledge me at all. They didn't look in my direction, and I was trying to speak to them, and they wouldn't look, they wouldn't answer back. It was just horrible. And it was just so dark and just so like alone, and it was like you were just completely alone, even though there was other people like walking amongst you. They was not there. It was like they were there, but the lights weren't on inside. It was just like they were empty, if you can understand what I mean. Like they were just shells walking around. It was horrible, people. I'm not gonna lie, it was horrible. So from that stage, it gets a bit jumbly in my head because nothing happened in like a particular order, and because I was in a coma as well, and obviously my heart stopped and all that stuff happened. I guess I've just got to tell you what I saw. Like, I do remember as well that at one point, I didn't mention this in the first video either, but I can remember seeing like this room, um, and it was like it would look like something out of a horror movie. That's the only way I can describe it. It had white tiles. It was a small room, and it had like you can get those plastic. They're like plastic curtains that they have in factories that are see through that flap like that. It had like them, and it was like a room with white tiles going all around it, and like this bed thing that looked like a torture device, and I'm not even lying. I didn't say this the first time. I couldn't get in there, but the room was horrible. It was covered in blood, like everywhere on the floor, up the walls, on these where it was all white tiled, so all this blood was everywhere on the bed itself. It looked like a place where animals, like animals obviously killed for like meat. It looked like a place like that where they do stuff to animals, but it was a bed for a human. And I don't even know whereabouts it was. It just appeared, and it was just this room, and I was like looking at it thinking, I'm gonna go in there, and I don't want to go in there. And I remember being really frightened I was going to end up in this room, and I must have just walked past it or just something. I just remember seeing it, and it was just horrible. It just looked like some torture room that you just don't want to even think what went on in there and why was there blood everywhere. It just looked awful, and it was quite, even though the it was white in colour, it was like dirty. I know it had all blood everywhere, but it was dirty as well. It was just horrible. It looked like something out of a horror movie, literally. Um, and then it gets to the part where I was in this place that was again very, very dark as well. And I could hear music, chart music it was. Um, and I can remember seeing people like dancing around, and I couldn't really understand what was going on. I remember being myself in this place. I felt dreadful. I felt really dreadful, like I was actually dying, very ill, just awful. And I was ever so thirsty, like really, really thirsty. Like I'd been in the desert for like weeks and weeks and weeks with no drink and no water, and I was so thirsty. And I remember that, and I can remember going through this place where everyone was dancing, and it was really dark still, but there was like sort of lights that you'd find in like a bar or a nightclub. The sort of lights here and there. That's the only light in there was. And then it was weird because I saw a few people there that I know that live now. Um, I saw somebody famous there, and then I saw somebody who I know personally there who spoke to me there, which was really strange. I don't want to say names really, especially with a famous person, but he looked like Zac Efron. And this was like back in 2008, so he wasn't all that famous then. He was just doing his High School Musical thing, but it really looked like him, and like he was there. And the other person I saw was actually no, I don't want to say the other person because in case they watch this video, I don't want to like freak them out. Because you don't want to say like I saw so and so in hell. I don't want to freak them out, so I'm not going to say. But I just saw somebody that I know there. And then the next minute I was still in the same place, but it was like I said before, it was like a waiting room, and I was actually led on a hospital bed. I don't know why I was just led on a hospital bed, and I was in like this waiting room, and then behind me was still all the people like dancing and everything like that, like what I told you guys before. They were just dancing and stuff. I was still really super thirsty. All I wanted was a drink, and obviously while I was there in this room, I'm looking around me, and there's all these people there, like so many different people, but they are like very, 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 very deformed, like really deformed. I mean, I'm not, please, if anyone's watching this that has a facial deformity or something wrong with them, I'm not, please don't judge me and think that I'm being horrible to you, because I'm not. Because trust me, I know we've got some people that have very bad illnesses here on earth, but I've never seen anything like what I saw in this place. It was completely unearthly. Even though they looked human, it was unearthly. It was just horrible. I mean, I saw the ones that stick in my mind the most, which I've told you guys before, is there was two guys. They were white men. They had completely no hair on their heads whatsoever, and they were stuck together by their foreheads, and their foreheads actually stuck out like that, and then they were stuck together. I don't know what that means, but they just looked really weird. And I'd never seen anything like it before. Excuse me, I've got really bad hay fever. My nose keeps running, so I do apologise if I'm constantly like this. But yeah, my hay fever's like through the roof. But yeah, so there was two guys, no hair on their heads whatsoever, like completely, it was like skin, on their heads. There's nothing, no hair whatsoever. Their foreheads like stuck out, and they were like stuck together via their foreheads, like stuck. So they had to walk together because they were stuck together. And I can remember in the place I was in this bed, so I could only move my head as well. Like, I couldn't really move my body or anything. I could only move my head. It was like I was trapped. It was like I had handcuffs on or chained, and I was like strapped or tied to the bed, and I couldn't move. I could only move my head like from side to side. So that's how I saw these people. And I can remember like the ones on this side of me here were like this boy, well, not boy, but these like older teenage types that were kind of like Asian-y looking. Like they looked like they was from like China or Thailand or somewhere like that, but they were completely dressed like really like gothic or emo, like completely like black outfits and black, like really dark, like the eyeliner, the really dark makeup, really black, really gothic-y and dark, vampy, like really dark. And I can remember they were like doing like things, just like sexual things, like not literally like full on having like sex, but just like the touching and the feeling and the just nastiness that I really did not want to see. I was just like, I don't want to see that. So I had that, and then there was other people as well that were really deformed. And I remember it was one guy, and I don't even know how to explain this. It's like every time I tell somebody this, they laugh, and I'm like, it's not funny because that is exactly what he looked like. But there was this guy, and I don't know if you guys know what a Toby jug is. If you Google Toby jug and look at Toby jugs, they're like these cups things, like big cups like that are shaped like faces, and they're painted like faces, and they just look, and he literally had a face like a Toby jug face. That's the only way I could describe it. It was almost like it was made of china, like not skin, it was like made of china, but he had like a normal human body. And I can remember all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, this man came along, and he was a very, very, very dark skinned man. His skin was almost black, and I don't mean like people from the Caribbean or from Africa and places like that. I mean his skin was black, like almost completely like jet black. But he was dressed quite smartly. He had on like a dark navy blue shirt. He had on black trousers. He had dark black afro hair. His skin was nearly the same colour as his hair. That's how dark he was. He was just so dark. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I know we do get people here with really dark skin, and I think everyone's skin colour is beautiful, I just think we're all the same. Cut us open, we all bleed red, we're all the same. Skin colour is just skin colour, but this was a different kind of person, guys. I'm not talking like he looked human, but that was just how he was projecting himself to me, probably because he didn't want to frighten me and show his true self, which was obviously like a demonic form or of the enemy himself. But I can remember him coming along, and I can remember him, like, he was very touchy-feely. He kept touching my hair, he kept touching like my arms, he kept like putting his head really near me, and he was talking to me, and he was telling me that I had to go with him. And I was like, no, I don't want to go with you. What do you mean I need to go with you? And he was like, well, this is the end now, time up, you need to come with me. And I was like, I don't want to come with you. And he's like, but you have to come with me, it's time to go to sleep. And I goes, what do you mean it's time to go to sleep? He said, well, it's time to go to sleep forever. And I was like completely freaked out, and he gave me this rose, which I spoke about obviously in my first video, and this rose that he gave me was like almost like a purple blacky colour. And I remember him giving me this rose, and I remember I was so thirsty, and he had like this drink and he gave me it, and it was in what you call a martini glass. So it's like an upside down triangle with a stem, and then you know, you all know what they are. People have fancy cocktails in them and stuff, but it was that glass. It was, I can remember it. I can't even, when I see those glasses now, even on movies, I freak out, because that is what he had, and he gave it to me. And I was so thirsty, and he gave me this drink, and I was so thirsty that I wanted to drink it, and I did. And I just remember it being the most driest, horriblest. It was just tasted disgusting. It was just so dry. I think it was like a gin and tonic. I don't even know what it was, but I think it was like a gin and tonic. It was really dry, and I spat it out because it was so disgusting. And then he was like pulling me and tugging me and telling me I had to go with him, and I was really like freaking out. I was scared, guys. And I can remember like this window appearing in front of me, and it was like a really long thin window, and the light that was coming from this window was like a very ultraviolet white light, and it was shining out, and in that light I could see doctors and nurses working, and I knew I had to get into that room. I had to get in there somehow, and it felt like all these other people, these deformed people, were trying to get into that room. They never made it in there, obviously. Let's go back to where I was with this guy all over me. He's still there. I told him basically to go away, leave me alone and go away. Then another man appeared out of nowhere, and he was either from like Africa or somewhere like that, or the Caribbean, but he had you know, he was like a normal human being, and he I don't know why, but he was wearing an ambulance uniform, which here is like a green colour, and he had on his green like pants, trousers, this green top, like proper ambulance uniform, and he had like Afro-Caribbean hair, but it was like bleached white. And he appeared out of nowhere, and I just knew that he was good. He was good. And I spoke to him and I said, help me, please get this man away from me. And he goes, are you okay? And I was like, no, I need him to get away from me. And so he said something to this dark thing that wouldn't leave me alone. And I said, yeah, go away, I don't want to know, I'm not coming with you, no, go away, like that. And he disappeared out of nowhere. I don't even know where he went, he just disappeared. And anyway, I ended up entering that light, that place where all the doctors and nurses was. I entered, and I can remember as I went through, the two guys with the bald heads and the ones with their foreheads stuck together was like in front of me, but they didn't get through. I did. And then obviously then the next minute I'm like waking up from the coma. Haven't got a clue where I am. I'm waking up, don't know where I am, don't know what's happened, completely confused. Nurses shining lights into my eyes, do you know where you are? And I'm like completely confused. Obviously after a few hours, you know, I was sort of like had my wits about me a bit more, and the first thing I started to do was move around. I was trying to hunt for the rose that the man gave me. And like obviously I had my family sat around me, and they was like, what are you doing? I said, I had a really weak voice. I need to find something. And they was like, what? And I was like, I need to find the rose. And it was like, what you want about? What rose? I goes, the rose that the man gave me. And my mum and that and my stepdad were like, what do you mean, a rose that some man gave you? You're in hospital, you've been seriously unwell, you haven't seen no man's giving you no rose, what are you talking about? And then my ex-partner at the time, he was there, and he said, oh, are you on about a few weeks ago when you went out with your friends, did some man give you a rose then? I said, no, I was getting really frustrated because he wasn't understanding what I was saying. I was like, no, not then. And he was like, well, when are you talking about? And I said, I can't remember what I said now, but I basically said, well, it was the other night, you know. Bear with me 1 second, guys, I'm just going to turn my charger on because it's going to go out otherwise. Hi, I'm back. Hello. Yeah, so I was looking for this rose. I was getting really frustrated with all the people there because they just wasn't understanding what I was saying. And in the end, I ended up saying like, oh, well, I'm looking at it. And he was like, what do you mean? Where did you get it from? I goes, oh, some guy gave it to me. Yeah, he gave it to me and he wanted me to go with him. And then obviously everyone was saying, what do you mean he wanted you to go with him? Go with him where? I said, I don't know. He just wanted me to go with him. And he said, and my time was up and I had to go with him. And it was time to go to sleep forever. And they said, oh, when did this happen? When did it happen? And I said, it happened the early hours of Sunday. I don't even know how I managed to actually say all that because I was really weak, because obviously I'd been in a coma, but I did. And everyone's faces just like dropped and they just looked completely horrified. And my stepdad, he was the most skeptic person you could ever meet. He does not believe in anything. And even he looked really frightened. And I didn't know at the time. And I couldn't understand why they were all looking at me really strange. And it came about, that was actually a time when my heart had stopped, and when they did that, whatever it's called, with the electronic things, that thing, yeah. So yeah, and that was at the time as well when all the doctors, I'm a nurse here, well, doctors, let's not say nurses, because nurses, doctors are more in charge. They said to my family that I wasn't going to make it, that there was no way I was going to make it without having a transplant. There was just no way, and it was like, she'll be lucky, she's not even going to make it through the night, she's too critical, she's too unwell. Can you gather all her close family and friends to say their goodbyes? I mean, they really did not think that I was going to make it, and they warned my family saying that she's not going to make it, so I'm really sorry, you're going to have to say your goodbyes. And yeah, so I was going to have a transplant then as well, but I had like this whole church praying for me at the time. And it was so bizarre because my ex-partner, whose dad's a pastor, by the way, he rang his father, and he to tell him what was going on, to say, oh, that she's got to have a transplant, otherwise she's not going to make it, and she'll be lucky to make it through the transplant. And his father was like, no, that's not what we've been praying for, we've been praying for healing, she will not need a transplant. And my ex-partner got really angry with his dad. He was like, Dad, just stop with all the God stuff, she's going to die, the doctors have said she's going to die, they're doctors, they know what they're doing, she is going to die, and she needs a transplant to survive. And he was like, no, but we've been praying for her, to Jesus to completely heal her, so she won't need a transplant. And literally I never needed that transplant because my own liver refunctioned itself, and I was like a little miracle in the hospital, because even all the doctors were like, you're like a living, breathing miracle, because we just don't know how it was even possible for your liver to refunction. You were at death's door, you shouldn't even be here. And there I was, smiling away in my hospital bed, as alive as you could ever be. And they were just like, and it was really amazing because I kept getting all these different doctors from different departments and nurses coming to see me, and they was like, we've come to see the miracle, because that's exactly what it was. And and that's why I decided to become a Christian, guys, because obviously having that experience and going to that place, which was hell, I knew it was hell. I did have people confirm at church that it was definitely hell, but I knew it was hell. My soul knew it was hell, and I don't even know, because I didn't even know if hell was even real or not. I kind of did, but I thought only like really bad people went there, like murderers and stuff like that. But I went there, and I thought, why did I go there? I've never done nothing wrong. I know the reason why now, because it's because I'd never repented of sins, and I was sinning, doing all different kinds of things. I'd never repented because I didn't know we had to repent. I didn't know we had to ask for forgiveness. Even when I started going to church and became a born-again Christian, I still didn't know we had to pray for forgiveness. I didn't know that. I should just pray for other people instead. Anyway, so let's go back. Again, if this cuts out, I apologise. I will do a video too. Anyway, so that happened. I became a born-again Christian in church. It was called City Faith Church. I went there a few times. I had to go there a few times. I didn't just become a born-again Christian. I had to go there a few times, and I became a born-again Christian. Told people there my story and what happened, and he was like, oh my goodness, pretty amazed and all that. And yeah, when I even though I knew it was hell, to hear people tell me that was hell still, the hairs on the back of my arms like stood up, because it was just horrible. It was the most worst place ever, and I didn't even get to see anybody being tortured in flames or anything like that. I saw no flames at all, but I just think I was in a section, like the waiting room section. If I'd have gone with that guy to the next place where he wanted to take me, I think that would have been it then. I would not be here now. And I just believe that the church praying is why I'm here now, so I am really thankful. And anyway, so so I became a born-again Christian. That's my story of how I became a born-again Christian, by the way. And then sadly I did get really unwell again in 2011. It was the same thing, and my liver failed again. Again, it was acute liver failure. Again, I was put into a coma. And again, I was rushed to the top of the transplant list. Only this time I did have to actually have a transplant. So I had a transplant on the 23rd of February 2011. But yeah, before they put me into the coma, and I remember them saying, we're going to have to put you into a coma because your body needs to be completely at rest, and obviously we need to keep you alive. And there was a lot of risks again. I was dying again, basically. Obviously, your liver's completely packed up. You're not, everything just started shutting down. Like, it was the liver, then it was the kidneys, and it was the heart. Everything was just shutting down one by one. I'm trying not to get emotional because it was like such a big thing. But when they told me they was going to put me into a coma again, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was so afraid because I really thought I was going to go back to that place, and I didn't want to go there, and I was really afraid, and I was really scared. And I remember saying to my husband, I said, don't let them put me in a coma, please, don't let them do it, because I don't want to go back to that place. It really frightens me. I don't want to go back there. And he was like, you're not going to go back there. And I was like, but what if I do? I don't want to go back there. I can't go back to that place. Please don't let me go back to that place. I was so frightened. I was so frightened, like so frightened. And I really thought that was going to be it this time. I said, I'm not going to come back. This is it. I'm going to die. You know, and I said, I'm going to go back to that place. And I was just so scared, guys, so scared. But obviously they had to put me in the coma. I didn't have no choice. If they wouldn't have done it, I would have died. They had to put me in the coma because it's to make your body rest, you know. And I was rushed to Birmingham Hospital. That's where I was rushed to before as well. I live not far from, about an hour and a half drive from London, in Wiltshire, and I had to go to Birmingham to the hospital there because it's a specialist hospital. It's a huge hospital where they do like transplants and heart surgery. They've got all the cancer treatments there. They have the army people and air people go there if they've been injured in Afghanistan and places like that at war. They come there and they get treated. So it's a really huge hospital. It looks like a massive airport inside. It's quite amazing actually. But anyway, I was put in a coma here, in my hospital here, which is just over the road from where I live now. I was terribly frightened, but I had a completely different experience. This time, I didn't end up in the dark place. I didn't end up in a waiting room. But the thing I didn't mention before in my first video is before I went up is I can remember that I was in this garden, but it was nighttime, and I can remember there was lots of grass. It was very green. There were trees. They were very green. But it was dark. It wasn't all like daylight. It was dark, and I was being like chased by these I can only what I can say is like youths, like teenagers that were like youths that had these hoodies on, and they were up over their heads, so so they only had their faces showing, and they were chasing me. And I can remember running through this garden and being afraid. So I'm not even sure what they were. They were something not good, but they were chasing me, and I was running. And then don't even know what happened then to my camera. It just went a bit strange, but I was running, and I can remember there was like this stream, and I can remember there was like a bridge in the distance, and I don't know if I went over the bridge or not. I think I did. And then the next minute, I was like up really high, and really high up, and I can remember looking down, and I actually saw myself led in the hospital bed. Obviously I'm up really up high, and I'm looking at myself on this hospital bed, and I can't get my head around what's going on. Like, why can I see myself down there when I'm here? How am I down there and here? I don't understand. And it was really strange, and I looked down at myself, and literally the gown I was wearing, and where this video is going to cut off and I'm going to have to do a part 2, but the gown I had on, and the hospital bed sheets and blankets, the floor and the walls. I was in like this room on my own. It was like a wall going round. Everything was white, like glowing white, like that ultraviolet light that I talked about earlier. Like, it was all glowing. I didn't have any of the breathing tubes in or anything. It was just me, myself, with my eyes shut, with with a glowing white gown on, glowing white bed sheets. The floor was glowing white, the walls were glowing white, and I remember thinking that I looked ever so peaceful, and I was like, I just look like I'm asleep and I look like I'm peaceful, but it still took me a while. I couldn't understand why I was still seeing myself down there. And let me just say that in reality, I wasn't even wearing white. I had a dark blue gown on that had a little tiny thin collar like that. That was white. Then I had a little a white sheet, but it was only that much of it showing, like there. And then it was a dark blue like blanket, and the floor in there was like a dark green. And I wasn't even in a room on my own. I was in the critical care unit, which is a massive, massive room with all the patients that are in comas and that all together in this big room all together. So I wasn't even in a room on my own. But when I was looking down on myself, oh, and also obviously I had life support machines, so I had a tube going in my mouth, I had tubes going up my nose, I had tube coming out my neck out of the main vein thing. I had all these things, all the the drips and things, and the IVs, loads of them all going. And all these things around me, all the screens around me with the heart monitor. I was on dialysis as well for my kidneys, so I had all that going on in reality. But when I was looking at myself from way up high, none of that was there. It was just me in this room on my own with my eyes shut. Looked like I was completely asleep, completely peaceful, and everything that I was wearing and all the quilt and the sheet and the bedding and the wall and the floor were just glowing white, like really glowing. And then I can remember like looking around, and it was all like blue, like I was up in the sky, and there was big white fluffy clouds everywhere. And all of a sudden I saw this light coming towards me, and it was like the sun, as bright as the sun. Only you could look right at it. You could look right at this light, right at it. It didn't hurt your eyes at all. You could look at this light, and he's coming towards you, and this light surrounded you. He engulfs you. It's just so bright. It's like the sun coming towards you, but more not yellow, like a white light, like again, like ultraviolet, but like just like the sun is powerful as the sun, but it was more of a whiter light, and it surrounded you, and I just felt the presence. I knew that was a being. I knew that was something that was very high up, that was very powerful. And all I felt, and I'm not lying, I'm getting emotional because it is just so like, wow, I just felt love, so much love that I've never experienced in my life before. Even to now, I have never experienced that love. I've never experienced that powerful love in my whole life. That being loved me so much, more than anyone's ever loved me, more than I've ever loved anyone. It was so powerful, this love and this peace. It was love, and it was peace, and it was protection and safety. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And all I can remember is I was with him, we were together. I couldn't see features, I couldn't see eyes or a beard or face shape or hands or anything. It was just this light engulfing me, surrounding me, everywhere, all over me. And it was beautiful, and it was wonderful, and I felt peace, and I felt love like I've never felt before. And all I knew is that I did not want to come back here to this earth. I wanted to stay there with him, with I believe it was Jesus himself, okay? That's what who my soul told me it was. I believe it was him. I believe to this day it was him, and I know it was him in my whole heart, because if it was the enemy pretending to be of light, I would not have felt that love and peace. There's no way. I felt safety, I felt love and peace, and I didn't want to come back here. And that sounds totally selfish, because I have a family, I have friends, I have children, but I did not want to come back to this earth. I just wanted to stay in this beautiful place with this being, this person that loved me so much. I did not want to come back, guys. I really didn't. And I can remember begging and saying to him, please, please, don't send me back. I want to stay with you. I want to stay with you. I don't want to go back there. I want to stay with you. I really want to stay with you. And I can remember we spoke, and it was not through our mouths. It was not how I'm speaking to you now through my mouth. It was telepathically. It was through our minds, and it went back, forth, back, forth. It felt like I was talking forever, like telepathically. And I cannot remember what he said. I can't remember nothing that he said. I can just remember me telling him that I didn't want to come back here. And I wish I could remember what he said to me, because what if he gave me a warning? What if he told me I needed to do something? The only thing I can think of is if he'd have given me a warning or something, then I think I'd remember it. The only thing I can think of is he just said, it's not my time, it's not your time. And I'm not gonna, and I was obviously sent back here, because here I am now telling you what happened. So I was sent back, and I'm not gonna lie, I was angry for such a long time after that, because all I wanted was to go back there again. I wanted to go back and I wanted to be with him so badly. It was just like more than you've ever wanted anything in your life. I just wanted to go back there, and I was like, why did he send me back to this